My best friend ran into the coffee shop where I manage, 4 miles from my apartment. "What's the emergency?" I said. She panted. "You need to go now. Your girlfriend." I left everything and drove frantically. Hazmat teams were already setting up outside my door. The yellow tape stretched across my apartment building's entrance like crime scene decoration, except the people in white suits weren't police. They were hazmat technicians, and they were sealing off the 3rd floor, my floor, with the kind of urgency reserved for chemical spills and biological threats. I stood on the sidewalk at 2:47 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon, still wearing my coffee-stained apron from work, watching 3 fire trucks and 2 ambulances create a perimeter around the place I'd lived for 18 months. A paramedic intercepted me before I could get closer. "Sir, you need to stay back. This is a restricted area." "I live here," I said, pointing to the 3rd floor corner unit where I could see my living room window. "Apartment 3C. What's happening?" She consulted a tablet. "Name? Kieran Foster." Her expression changed. Subtle, but I caught it. "Mr. Foster, I need you to wait here. Someone will be out to speak with you shortly." "About what? Is there a fire? A gas leak?" She didn't answer. Just radioed something I couldn't hear and walked away, leaving me standing behind the barricade like a spectator at my own disaster. 15 minutes earlier, I'd been working the lunch rush at Grind Coffee House, the place I'd managed for 3 years in downtown Portland. It was a normal Thursday, busy but manageable, the usual mix of remote workers camping on laptops and students ordering complicated drinks. I was training a new barista on the espresso machine when my best friend Olivia came crashing through the door like she'd run a marathon. "Kieran," she gasped, hands on her knees, trying to catch her breath. "You need to go home. Right now." Olivia didn't run. She was a yoga instructor who preached mindfulness and proper breathing. Seeing her bent over and panting in the middle of my coffee shop set off every alarm in my brain. "What's wrong?" I asked, already untying my apron. "Your girlfriend." She stopped, looked around at the customers watching us, and lowered her voice. "Your girlfriend did something. I don't know what. But there are emergency vehicles at your building. Multiple. I was driving past and saw them setting up, and You need to go." My girlfriend, Amber Hollis, 26 years old, pharmaceutical sales rep, lived with me for the past 4 months. We'd been dating for 9 months total, and she was supposed to be at work right now, making her rounds at medical offices across the city. If you are enjoying this story already, please subscribe to see more stories like this. "What kind of emergency vehicles?" I asked. "All of them," Olivia said. "Fire trucks, ambulances, people in white suits. Kieran, it looks bad. I left everything. Told my assistant manager Elena to close up, grabbed my keys, and drove the 4 miles to my apartment faster than I should have. Olivia followed in her car, both of us breaking probably a dozen traffic laws to get there. And now, I was standing behind yellow tape, watching hazmat teams enter and exit my building, and nobody would tell me what was happening. A woman in a dark suit approached, her badge identifying her as Detective Laura Kowalski, Portland Police Bureau. She had the tired eyes of someone who'd seen too much, and the careful posture of someone who knew how to deliver bad news. "Mr. Foster?" "I'm Detective Kowalski. I need to ask you some questions about your apartment and your girlfriend, Amber Hollis. What did she do? Is she okay?" Kowalski pulled out a notebook. "When did you last see Ms. Hollis?" "This morning, around 7:30. She left for work before I did. And did you notice anything unusual? Any strange smells? Any items out of place? Any changes to your apartment?" "No, everything was normal. I made coffee, she took a shower, we both left. Standard morning." Kowalski wrote something down. "Mr. Foster, I need you to be completely honest with me. Are you aware of any chemical substances, drugs, or hazardous materials in your apartment?" "No, nothing like that." "What's going on? When did Ms. Hollis move in with you?" 4 months ago, June 15th. "And in that time, have you noticed any unusual purchases? Large quantities of cleaning supplies, chemistry equipment, anything that seemed out of place for someone in pharmaceutical sales?" I started to say no, then stopped. Because now that she mentioned it, there had been things. Small things I'd rationalized away. The extra lock Amber had installed on the spare bedroom door, claiming she needed private space for work calls. The Amazon packages that arrived weekly, which she always unpacked before I got home. The chemical smell that sometimes lingered in the apartment, which she blamed on new cleaning products. "Mr. Foster?" "She put a lock on the spare bedroom," I said slowly. "Said it was for privacy. And there have been packages. A lot of packages." Kowalski's expression hardened. "Did you ever go into the spare bedroom?" "Once or twice. It looked normal. Desk, computer, some file boxes. She said she did paperwork in there." The detective exchanged a glance with a man in a hazmat suit who'd just emerged from the building. He shook his head slightly. "Mr. Foster," Kowalski said, "I need you to come with me to the station. We have a lot to discuss. Am I under arrest?" "Not at this time. But we need your cooperation." Olivia touched my arm. "I'm coming with you." "Ma'am, that won't be possible," Kowalski said. "Then I'm calling a lawyer," Olivia shot back. "Kieran, don't say anything until you have representation." "Smart advice," Kowalski acknowledged. "Mr. Foster, you're free to have a lawyer present. But time is critical here. We need information about what's in your apartment, and we need it now. I don't know what's in there, I said. My voice sounded strange, distant. I live there. How do I not know what's in my own apartment? That, Kowalski said grimly, is what we're trying to figure out. I'd met Amber 9 months ago at a pharmaceutical conference where Grind Coffee House had a vendor booth. We'd been hired to provide coffee service for the 3-day event, and she'd come to our station during every break, always ordering the same thing, oat milk latte with an extra shot. By day 2, I had her order ready before she asked. By day 3, I'd asked for her number. She was beautiful in an understated way. Shoulder-length auburn hair, green eyes, the kind of smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. She worked for a mid-sized pharmaceutical company called Vitality Health Solutions, selling diabetes management drugs to doctors' offices. It was a good job, she'd said. Stable income, company car, health insurance. She traveled a lot but was trying to cut back on overnight trips. Our first date was dinner at a Thai restaurant downtown. She was funny, self-deprecating, asked questions about my life that seemed genuinely interested. She wanted to know about the coffee business, about my plans for the future, about my family. I told her about growing up in Seattle, about my parents who died in a car accident when I was 23, about inheriting just enough money to go to business school and eventually buy into Grind as a partner manager. She told me about growing up in Eugene, about her parents who were still alive but estranged, about studying chemistry in college before switching to business. She was smart, ambitious, driven, everything I thought I wanted. We'd been dating for 5 months when she mentioned that her lease was ending and she was looking for a new place. I'd suggested casually that she could move in with me. My apartment was bigger than hers, cheaper rent, closer to her territory. It made practical sense. Looking back, I realize I'd been the one to suggest it. She'd never asked. She'd just agreed, quickly, like she'd been waiting for the invitation. At the police station, I sat in an interview room with Detective Kowalski and another detective, a younger guy who introduced himself as Detective Raymond Nash, 15 years with the Bureau. They'd told me I could wait for a lawyer, but I'd decided to talk anyway. I had nothing to hide. I needed to know what was happening. Kowalski set a digital recorder on the table. For the record, this is Detective Laura Kowalski interviewing Kieran Foster regarding the incident at 2847 Hawthorne Boulevard, apartment 3C. Mr. Foster, you've waived your right to have an attorney present, correct? Correct. Nash pulled out a folder. Mr. Foster, what we found in your apartment is a fully operational methamphetamine laboratory. Based on the volume of materials and the sophistication of the setup, we estimate it's been active for at least 3 months. The room tilted. Meth lab. In my apartment. Where I slept. Where I ate breakfast. Where I'd lived my normal, boring life for 18 months. That's impossible, I said. The lab was located in your spare bedroom, Nash continued. The one Ms. Hollis kept locked. We found approximately 12 kilograms of finished product, precursor chemicals, cooking equipment, and extensive documentation of production and distribution. I shook my head. I had no idea. None. You never smelled the chemicals? Never noticed the ventilation system she'd installed? Never wondered why your utility bills increased by 30% over the past 4 months? I thought the bills were higher because it's summer, because we're running the AC more. The AC unit in that bedroom had been modified to vent chemical fumes directly outside, Kowalski said. Professional installation. Expensive. Someone knew what they were doing. Not me, I said firmly. I manage a coffee shop. I know about espresso machines and profit margins. I don't know anything about meth labs. Nash opened his folder and slid a series of photos across the table. Crime scene documentation. My spare bedroom, transformed into something I didn't recognize. Lab equipment on every surface. Boxes of pseudoephedrine stacked against one wall. A ventilation system that definitely hadn't been there when Amber moved in. This was in your apartment, Nash said. You're the leaseholder. Your name is on the utilities. Your fingerprints are going to be all over that apartment. But not in that room, I said. I was never in that room after she installed the lock. Why did you let her install a lock on a room in your apartment? Because she asked. Because I trusted her. Kowalski leaned forward. Mr. Foster, I want to believe you. But you need to understand how this looks. You invite your girlfriend to move in. 4 months later, we discover a major drug operation in your home. The district attorney is going to ask why we shouldn't charge you as an accomplice. Because I didn't know. Then help us prove that, Nash said. Tell us everything you know about Amber Hollis. Where she is, where she might go, who she works with. I don't know where she is. I thought she was at work. We called Vitality Health Solutions, Kowalski said. Amber Hollis hasn't worked there in 6 months. She was terminated for falsifying sales reports and misusing company resources. My stomach dropped. 6 months ago. 2 months before she moved in with me. She still goes to work every day, I said weakly. She leaves at 8, comes home at 6. She talks about her clients, her sales numbers. It's all fabricated, Nash said. We don't know what she's actually been doing during those hours, but it wasn't pharmaceutical sales. I thought about all the conversations we'd had about her work. The stories about difficult doctors and successful pitches. The stress she'd claimed about meeting quotas. All lies. Elaborate, detailed, convincing lies. Mr. Foster, Kowalski said gently. I need you to think very carefully. Has Amber mentioned any associates? Any friends or contacts who might be involved in drug distribution? I shook my head. She didn't really have friends. Or if she did, I never met them. She said she was private, that she didn't mix work and personal life. What about family? She said her parents were estranged, that she didn't talk to them. Nash pulled out another document. We ran her background. Amber Hollis has a record. 3 arrests for drug possession, 1 conviction for distribution, served 18 months in federal prison. Released 2 years ago. I felt like I'd been punched. She told me she'd never been arrested, never been in trouble with the law. She also told you she worked in pharmaceutical sales, Kowalski pointed out. Everything she's told you is a lie, Mr. Foster. The question is whether you're part of the lie or a victim of it. I'm a victim, I said. My voice cracked. I'm the idiot who let a drug dealer move into his apartment and didn't notice she was cooking meth in the spare bedroom. We're going to need to search your finances, Nash said. Bank records, credit card statements, any large cash deposits or withdrawals. Search whatever you want. I have nothing to hide. They did. Over the next 6 hours while I sat in various interview rooms and waiting areas, Portland PD went through my entire financial history. My bank accounts, my tax returns, my business records from the coffee shop. They interviewed Olivia, who confirmed I'd been at work every day and had no suspicious income. They talked to my assistant manager Elena, to my business partner, to my landlord. By 11 p.m., Detective Kowalski came back with coffee and a folder. Your finances are clean, she said. No unexplained deposits, no cash businesses, nothing that suggests you're involved in drug trafficking. Your employees confirm you work 60-hour weeks and barely have time for a social life, let alone a criminal enterprise. So I'm not being charged? Not at this time. But Mr. Foster, you need to understand something. Your apartment is a crime scene. You can't go back there. We're going to need weeks to process everything, and even after we release it, you're looking at extensive decontamination. Meth labs leave residue that's toxic and persistent. Where am I supposed to go? Do you have friends or family who can take you in? I thought of Olivia, who had a 1-bedroom apartment and 2 roommates. My parents were dead. I had a sister in California I hadn't talked to in 3 years. My business partner Aaron had a family and no space for a surprise house guest. I'll figure something out, I said. Kowalski slid the folder across the table. These are copies of the evidence we've collected. Photos, chain of custody documentation, witness statements. You're going to need them when this goes to trial. Trial? Amber Hollis is going to be charged with multiple felonies. Drug manufacturing, distribution, possession with intent. You'll likely be called as a witness, if you find her. We will, Kowalski said. People like her always make mistakes. I took the folder and stood up. My entire body ached like I'd been in a fight. Can I ask you something? Of course. How did you find out? What led you to my apartment? Anonymous tip, Kowalski said. Someone called the non-emergency line this morning, said there was a chemical smell coming from your building and people in hazmat suits might want to check it out. We sent a unit to investigate. When they detected the chemical signature of meth production, they called in the hazmat team. Who called it in? We don't know. The tip was anonymous. I thought about that as I left the police station. Someone had known. Someone had called the police at exactly the right time, when I was at work, and Amber was... where? Doing whatever she actually did all day? Olivia was waiting in the lobby. She hugged me hard. You look terrible, she said. I feel terrible. Come on, you're staying with me. We'll figure out the roommate situation later. We drove to her apartment in silence. My phone had been buzzing periodically. Texts from Elena asking if I was okay, a voicemail from Aaron wanting to know what the hell was going on, 3 missed calls from an unknown number. I ignored all of it. At Olivia's place, her roommates were already asleep. She set me up on the couch with blankets and pillows, made me tea I didn't drink, and sat with me while I stared at nothing. Talk to me, she said. I don't know what to say. 9 months. I dated her for 9 months and didn't know anything about her. This isn't your fault, isn't it? I let her move in. I didn't ask enough questions. I didn't notice that she'd built a meth lab 20 feet from where I slept. Olivia grabbed my hand. Kieran, listen to me. You are not responsible for someone else's deception. She lied to you, professionally, deliberately. You're not stupid for believing her. You're human. I wanted to believe that. But lying on Olivia's couch at 1 a.m., staring at the ceiling and replaying every conversation I'd ever had with Amber, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd missed something. Some sign, some clue, some indication that the woman I'd fallen for was a criminal using me as cover for a felony operation. The next morning, I called in sick to work. Elena was understanding. She'd already heard about the situation through the Portland rumor mill, which moved faster than social media. I spent the day at Olivia's apartment, going through the evidence folder Kowalski had given me, trying to understand how my life had imploded so completely in less than 24 hours. The photos were damning. My spare bedroom, which I'd seen maybe 5 times in 4 months, had been converted into a sophisticated drug laboratory. The desk I'd noticed was actually a cover. Behind it were tables holding beakers, burners, chemical containers. The file boxes I'd seen contained precursor materials and finished product. Everything was organized, labeled, professional. There were photos of documentation too, production logs showing dates, quantities, distribution schedules. Amber had been making approximately 2 kilograms of methamphetamine per week for at least 3 months. At street value, that was roughly $80,000 per week, over $3 million total, and I'd noticed nothing. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mr. Foster? This is Agent David Brennan with the DEA. I'd like to speak with you about Amber Hollis, the Drug Enforcement Administration. Because apparently local police weren't enough. I already talked to Portland PD, I said. I understand, but this case has federal implications. Ms. Hollis wasn't operating alone. We've been tracking a distribution network across 3 states, and your apartment appears to be a key production site. I didn't know about any of this. I believe you, Agent Brennan said, which is why I'd like to offer you a deal. You cooperate with our investigation, provide testimony when we bring charges, and we ensure the DA doesn't pursue any charges against you. I'm already not being charged. For now. But if Ms. Hollis tries to implicate you as an accomplice, if she claims you knew about the operation, if she produces any evidence that suggests collaboration, you could be facing 20 years in federal prison. My mouth went dry. She wouldn't do that. Mr. Foster, she ran a meth lab in your apartment for 3 months. What wouldn't she do? He had a point. What do you need from me? I asked. Everything you know. Every conversation. Every detail about her routine. Every contact she mentioned. And if she reaches out to you, we need you to cooperate with a controlled communication strategy. You want me to wear a wire. Only if she initiates contact. Most likely she's already fled the state. But if she's stupid enough to try to explain or apologize or threaten you, we need that on record. I agreed to meet Agent Brennan the next day at the DEA field office. Olivia insisted on coming with me, and this time she also insisted I bring a lawyer. Her cousin, Maxwell Reeves, was a criminal defense attorney who agreed to represent me pro bono after hearing my story. Maxwell was everything you'd expect from a defense attorney: sharp suit, sharper mind, and zero tolerance for law enforcement overreach. He reviewed the DEA's proposed cooperation agreement and marked it up extensively before allowing me to sign. You're not admitting knowledge of the drug operation, he told me. You're simply agreeing to provide truthful testimony about your relationship with Ms. Hollis and the timeline of events. That's it. Agent Brennan didn't love Maxwell's edits, but he accepted them. We spent 4 hours going through my relationship with Amber in excruciating detail. First date, first kiss, first time she stayed over, when she started leaving clothes at my place, when I suggested she move in. Every conversation I could remember about her work, her family, her past. The DEA already had most of her real history. Amber Hollis, real name Amber Danielle Hollis, had been arrested at 19 for marijuana possession. At 22, she'd been caught with 2 ounces of cocaine and served probation. At 24, she'd been arrested again, this time with enough methamphetamine to trigger mandatory minimum sentencing. She'd served 18 months in federal prison, been released on supervised probation, and disappeared into the system, until she met me. She targeted you, Agent Brennan said. Found someone with a clean record, stable income, an apartment that wouldn't attract attention. You were the perfect cover. How did she even find me? Probably wasn't random. She likely surveyed multiple coffee shops, attended events where she could meet working professionals, created a dating profile designed to attract people like you. This was premeditated. I felt sick. Every moment of our relationship, the coffee shop flirtation, the Thai restaurant date, the gradual progression toward moving in together, had been calculated. I wasn't her boyfriend. I was her mark. Mr. Foster, Agent Brennan said, I need you to prepare yourself for the possibility that we don't find her. People with her experience know how to disappear. She's had 18 hours to get out of state, change her appearance, access cash and fake IDs we haven't discovered yet. But you'll keep looking? Absolutely. She's wanted on federal drug charges. She's on every watch list and database we have. If she tries to use her real name for anything, to fly, to rent a car, to access a bank account, we'll know. That should have been reassuring. It wasn't. I went back to work on Monday, 5 days after the Hazmat teams had sealed off my apartment. My employees were supportive, customers were curious but polite, and life at Grind Coffee House continued like nothing had happened. Except I couldn't sleep, couldn't concentrate, and spent every spare moment checking my phone for news about Amber. Elena pulled me aside during the afternoon shift. You need to take some time off, she said. You're running on fumes. I can't afford to take time off. I have to pay rent on an apartment I can't live in, plus find somewhere else to stay, plus potentially hire a lawyer if this gets worse. Maxwell is representing you for free, Elena interrupted. Olivia is housing you for free. Aaron already said you can take paid leave from the shop. You have support, Kieran. Use it. But she was right. I was barely functioning. So I took 2 weeks off, spent them alternating between Olivia's couch and Maxwell's office, preparing for the possibility that Amber would be caught and I'd have to testify. 3 weeks after the raid, Agent Brennan called with an update. We found her, he said. Or rather, she found us. What does that mean? Amber Hollis turned herself into the Phoenix field office this morning. She's claiming she wants to cooperate. My heart started racing. Did she say anything about me? Quite a lot, actually. According to her statement, you were an active participant in the drug operation. You provided the apartment, helped launder money through your coffee shop, and were aware of everything from the beginning. That's a lie. I know, Agent Brennan said calmly. We've already verified that your coffee shop's financials are clean. There's no evidence of money laundering. Your bank records show no unusual activity. And we have testimony from multiple witnesses that you worked 60-plus hours a week at a legitimate business. So why is she lying? Because she's trying to reduce her sentence by offering up an accomplice, Brennan explained. If she can convince us you were involved, she might get credit for cooperation. It's a common strategy. Will it work? Not a chance. We have too much evidence proving you're a victim, not a criminal. But it does mean you'll need to testify. We need your account on record to counter her lies. The trial was scheduled for 6 months later. In the meantime, I rebuilt my life piece by piece. Found a new apartment, smaller, cheaper, in a different neighborhood. Went back to work full-time. Started therapy with a counselor named Dr. Patricia Nguyen, who specialized in trauma from interpersonal deception. The hardest part wasn't the legal proceedings or the financial stress. It was the betrayal. Every memory I had with Amber was now tainted. The trip we'd taken to the coast for my birthday, had she been planning the lab even then? The nights we'd cooked dinner together, talking about our future, had any of it been real to her? The morning I'd left for work while she was building a meth lab in the next room, how had I not known? Dr. Nguyen helped me understand that sociopaths are exceptionally good at deception, that Amber had likely studied me, identified my vulnerabilities, crafted a persona designed to make me trust her, that I wasn't stupid or negligent for falling for it. I was human. It helped. Slightly. The trial began on a Monday in March, 8 months after the raid. The prosecution's case was overwhelming. They had the lab, the drugs, the documentation, Amber's fingerprints on everything. They had her prior convictions, her false identity at the pharmaceutical company, her rental history showing she'd done this before, found vulnerable partners, moved in, set up operations. I testified on the third day. Walked through my relationship with Amber from beginning to end. Described how I'd met her, how she'd gradually integrated into my life, how I'd never suspected anything was wrong. The prosecutor asked about specific dates and conversations. The defense attorney tried to suggest I was lying, that I must have known, that no one could be that oblivious. Maxwell objected to every insinuation. The judge sustained most of them. When Amber took the stand, I sat in the gallery and watched her lie. She claimed we'd planned the operation together, that I'd suggested the spare bedroom as a lab location, that I'd helped her acquire materials, that we'd split the profits. The prosecutor demolished her testimony with bank records, employee statements, surveillance footage from my coffee shop showing me working during hours she claimed we were together. By the time the cross-examination ended, even her own lawyer looked defeated. If this story keeps your interest, please subscribe to get more stories like this. The jury deliberated for 3 hours, guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced her to 15 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole before serving at least 12. As they led her away, Amber looked at me. For a moment, I thought I saw something. Regret, maybe, or apology. But then her expression hardened, and I realized I was still trying to find humanity in someone who'd used me like a tool. Outside the courthouse, Agent Brennan shook my hand. You did good, Mr. Foster. Your testimony helped secure the conviction. Will there be others? Other victims like me? We're investigating 3 other residences where she lived before she met you. So far, we've found evidence of drug activity in 2 of them. The men she was involved with all claimed they had no idea. I believed them. Maxwell drove me back to my new apartment. Olivia was there with takeout and wine. We didn't talk about the trial. We just sat on my couch, ate pad thai, and watched terrible reality TV until I fell asleep. Life went back to normal, slowly. The coffee shop thrived. I dated occasionally, though I was careful now. Maybe too careful. Dr. Nguyen said I was working through trust issues, which seemed like an understatement. 1 year after the raid, I got a letter. Prison stationery, Phoenix Federal Facility. From Amber. I almost threw it away without reading it. Maxwell advised me not to open it. Dr. Nguyen said the choice was mine. I opened it. The letter was surprisingly simple. No excuses, no justifications. Just an apology. She wrote that she'd targeted me deliberately, that she'd lied about everything, that she understood I'd never forgive her. She said she was sorry for using me, for destroying my sense of safety, for making me question every relationship in my life. She said she didn't expect a response. She just wanted me to know that some part of what we had, maybe not much, but some small part, had been real to her. That she'd actually enjoyed the dinners we'd cooked together, the conversations we'd had, the quiet mornings before work. That for brief moments, she'd almost forgotten she was playing a role. I burned the letter, because it didn't matter if some fragment of our relationship had been genuine. It didn't change what she'd done. It didn't erase the meth lab or the lies or the fact that she'd tried to send me to prison to save herself. Dr. Nguyen said burning it was healthy, a symbolic ending. 2 years later, I'm still managing Grind Coffee House, still living in my smaller apartment, still in therapy, though less frequently. I date more carefully now, ask more questions, pay attention to inconsistencies. Maybe I'm paranoid, but I'm also alive, free, and no longer harboring a federal drug operation in my spare bedroom. Olivia tells me I'm healing. That I smile more, joke more, seem more like myself. I believe her. Mostly. Sometimes I still think about that morning. The last normal morning, before Olivia ran into my coffee shop and everything changed. I think about how close I came to going to prison for crimes I didn't commit. How easily Amber could have succeeded in framing me if I'd been slightly less transparent about my life, slightly more private about my finances. And I think about the anonymous tip. The phone call that started the investigation. Agent Brennan never found out who made it. The number was a burner phone, the voice disguised. Someone knew about the lab and called the police at exactly the right moment. I have a theory. I think it was one of Amber's accomplices. Someone in her distribution network who wanted her arrested, who wanted her operation shut down. Maybe she'd crossed them. Maybe they were cleaning house. Or maybe someone else she'd used saw through her lies and decided to end it. I'll never know for sure. But whoever they were, they saved my life. The Hazmat teams found toxic residue in my old apartment that would have taken years to fully remediate. If I'd lived there much longer, breathed those chemicals every night, I would have gotten sick. Maybe seriously sick. So in a strange way, I'm grateful. Grateful for the anonymous tip. Grateful for Agent Brennan's thorough investigation. Grateful for Maxwell and Olivia and Dr. Nguyen. Grateful for Elena, who covered my shifts and never asked invasive questions. Grateful that I survived. Because some betrayals don't just break your heart. Some betrayals poison everything they touch. And if you're lucky, incredibly, impossibly lucky, someone notices before the poison kills you. I was lucky, and I'm never taking that for granted again. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe and like to not miss the next story.